Following the First World War, the Iranian government signed a new series of agreements with Great Britain in August 1919, which gave the British excessive concessions and control over Iran's military, customs, and economy. This agreement generated unprecedented reactions. Protests erupted all across the country. Most Iranians felt that this agreement was designed to turn Iran into a British protectorate. At the same time, the Soviets also attempted to exploit the volatile situation in Iran. The Soviets began supporting and arming various separatist groups in places such as Kurdistan, Gilan, and Azerbaijan. The Ottoman Empire was also quick to exploit the situation in the Azerbaijan region and wanted to make the province a part of the Ottoman Empire. During this chaotic period in Iran's history, a strong leader known as Sheikh Muhammad Khiyabani stood up to all of these foreign powers and also to the corrupt Iranian Shah. Due to the Anglo-Persian agreement, several protests erupted in Iran, and the largest of these protests was in the Azerbaijan province, under the leadership of Sheikh Muhammad Khiyabani in 1920. The turning point of these protests led by Khiyabani occurred when the government police resorted to the use of force against anti-British protests. This resulted in arrests and many casualties. In response to this, Khiyabani and his followers decided to launch an armed resistance against the central government. Soon, Khiyabani and his rebels took control of almost all public administration buildings in 2 days, and the police were forced to leave Tabriz. After this successful rebellion, Khiyabani established his own state, known as Azadistan, meaning land of the free. This state controlled much of the Azerbaijan province, but Khiyabani intended to spread his vision throughout all provinces of Iran. The movement gained many supporters outside of the Azerbaijan province. The Azadistan movement had many supporters in Khurasan, Loristan, Hamdan, Qazvin, Gilan, Mashhad, Khuzestan, and Kurdistan. Khiyabani also had a large support base in the country's capital, Tehran. Unlike the Soviet-backed communists and Turkish-backed rebels in Azerbaijan, Khiyabani did not have any separatist intentions. His movement was rather a genuine political attempt to topple the 1919 Anglo-Iranian agreement and to restore constitutional rule in Iran. Khiyabani declared that no foreigners, whether they were British or Russian, had a right to intervene in the internal affairs of Iran, and warned that should the Bolsheviks attempt to annex any part of Iranian territory, Azerbaijan would fight against them to the end. Khiyabani's newly formed state, known as Azadistan, introduced a variety of reforms, with a primary focus on developing the rural areas, improving the peasants' lives, encouraging industrialization, and opening new schools and hospitals in cities and villages. Meanwhile, the insurgency that started in Tabriz spread to other cities in Iranian Azerbaijan, and even sparked anti-government protests in Tehran. Khiyabani's call to free Iran from being an instrument in the hands of foreigners had attracted many others from all over Iran. Soon, hundreds of people from all across Iran began migrating to Khiyabani's new State of Azadistan. Muhammad Khiyabani's state was very tolerant. He opposed the centralization policy of the Shah and believed that more power and autonomy should be given to the provinces. Khiyabani's state represented all Iranians, regardless of religion and ethnicity. Moreover, Khiyabani's state was a secular state. This is because, although he was a religious scholar, Khiyabani was a progressive thinker. In addition to his expertise in religious sciences and his mastery of Persian and Arabic, Khiyabani studied Russian and French and was familiar with the progressive ideas of the time. His stay in the Caucasus and trips to Russia and Europe introduced him to new developments and ideas. He grew up as a strong supporter of constitutionalism in Iran and became one of the forerunners of the constitutional revolution of 1906. Because of his progressive, inclusive and democratic views, Khiyabani's state attracted followers from a variety of different backgrounds. Leftists, clerics and secular intellectuals joined Khiyabani's Azadistan movement. Intellectuals such as Ahmed Kasravi, Ghulam Hussain Tabrizi, Arif Khazvini, Muhammad Ali Safwat, Ali Akbar Agha, Mirza Taqi Rifat, Mirza Ali Hayat and Mirza Rasul Kazimi joined Khiyabani's movement. Khiyabani's government lasted for 9 months before its suppression at the hands of the Iranian-Russian Brigade. Shortly after a few failed negotiation attempts between the Shah and Khiyabani, the Shah decided to use force and invade Azadistan. The Shah collaborated with Russian forces and took control of all strategic points throughout the city of Tabriz. As a result, the power of the central government was restored, and Khiyabani, as well as many other Democrats, were killed. There were many reasons for the fall of Azadistan, such as the lack of sufficient financing, a weak army, and many religious clerics who failed to support the movement. Shortly after Khiyabani's rebellion was crushed, a few smaller revolts took place in the Azerbaijan province. Revolutionaries such as Zainul Abidin Qayami and Abdul Qasim Lahuti rebelled against the Shah. However, both of these rebellions were quickly crushed.